Welcome. Glad to have you here today. It is a nice, lovely, warm summer day. Beautiful sunshine, and there are nice bird sounds and great smells wafting through the windows. So, we're going to move nice and slow today, and we'll just see what happens. What I'd like you to do today as we move is to focus more on how it feels in your body as you do these movements and less on how big a movement you're able to make. So this is an ongoing thing for me. A lot of yoga focuses on big movements, and I'm a bit more focused on how does it feel, because you don't need to do big in order to feel your movement. And so today, how does it feel? Let's get started. We're going to start in standing mountain. So feet about hip width apart, a little tiny bend in the knees, and we're going to start with a little breath work. So I'd like you to just bring your attention to your breath, and we're going to start by bringing in a nice long inhale and follow it with a nice slow exhale. And after that exhale, let your breath go into its normal groove. Find the 3 points on your feet: base of big toe, base of the pinky, center of the heel, and balance all 3 points on each foot. There's a little tiny bend in the knees, so there's a little bit of, you're not locking the knees back, a little bit of bend. And just breathe and balance on those 3 points on each foot. Most of the movement we'll be doing today is going to be rhythmic, and we will move in one direction on the inhale, and we'll move in the opposite direction on the exhale. Let's take a few more breaths. All right. So on our next exhale, I'd like you to look towards the right until your neck gets a little bit tight. Inhale back to center. And then on the next exhale, reverse that. Head looks towards the left shoulder and inhale to center. So each exhale to the side. Each inhale, come back to center. Exhale to the side. Inhale to the center. Now, I'd like you to keep your shoulders nice and stable. And just feel what's happening in the neck. Exhale to the side. Inhale to center. Exhale to the side. Inhale to center. Notice if your shoulders are following your head movement. In other words, are your shoulders rotating a little bit? Or are they staying fairly stable? Just notice. No correction needed. And the next time we exhale and take our head to the side, tuck your chin down towards your shoulder. Exhale, tuck your chin, inhale to center. Exhale, tuck your chin, inhale to center. And notice how your neck feels here. Do you have different feelings in the neck as the head goes from side to side? Is the right tighter in particular areas than the left? Is there less movement in one direction? And as always, how does it feel? And next time at your center, release. And just notice, how do things feel? How does your neck feel? How do the trapezius up here feel? How does your shoulder feel? Is your head floating a little lighter on your neck? Let's continue with the upper back. And what we're going to do is bring our attention to your thumbs. So thumbs. We're going to rotate the thumbs out as far back as they will comfortably go. Then we're going to bring the thumbs together, pointing down. So inhale as the thumbs come back. Exhale as the thumbs come together. Inhale. Exhale. So nice and slow, nice and smooth. Feel what's going on in the shoulders, in the arms. As you do this movement, knees are just slightly bent. Now I want you to also bring your attention to the back. So as the arms come back, what happens to your back? Does it lengthen? Does the thoracic curve change its curvature? As the arms come forward, does your thoracic curve and your cervical curve forward a little bit? Let's look at this from the side. So as the arms come forward and thumbs down, curve your back a little more. This is cat position. Here's cow. Cat. Cow. Exhale. Inhale. And as your arms come back, stick your butt out that way a little bit more so that both the hands and your cheeks are pressing back a little bit more. Inhale, cheeks and hands back. Exhale, cheeks and hands forward. And as the arms come back, release. Yeah, how do things feel? Backs of the shoulders, neck, and especially the back along the thoracic and the lumbar curves. How does it feel? We're going to continue with the back. We're going to move the action a little bit lower. And what we're going to do is we're going to do partial squats. What I want you to notice here is, of course, the quads are going to be engaged, but I want you to notice what's going on here in the lower back, in the lumbar back. So standing in standing mountain, again, feet a bit about hip width apart. What we're going to do is just bend the knees and notice what happens here. As the knees bend, the pelvis is going to tilt forward a little bit. So as the knees bend, pelvis tilts forward. Exhale, bend those knees and come down. Inhale, come on up. Exhale, bend those knees. Inhale up. And as you do this, notice the quads, of course, but also notice what's going on in the lower back. You should feel some engagement back here in the lower extensor muscles. If you'd like to, you could put your hands back there and feel them engage. When you come up into a standing position, release everything so that you can feel these back muscles release. Exhale. Inhale. Release everything. Exhale. Inhale and release. Feel those back muscles engage as you come down into a squat, and release up at the top as you come into a full upright. Let's do two more. Exhale down. Inhale up. Release. And release fully. So we're going to do a little more work with the back. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the arms to engage the back muscles. And it's just a very simple movement. Bring the arms up. Bring the arms down. So as the arms come up, I want you to look up towards your hands. So your gaze is going to follow your hands. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. So you'll notice we've got a little bit of a cat-cow back going on here. As the hands lift and the gaze follows up, lift here right at the sternum. And the sternum tilts down towards the ground as we come into cat. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Now, I'd like you to have the knees bent slightly. And this time, let's bend the knees a little bit further. So if you look down at your knees and your feet, what I'd like you to have is the knees about at the end of your toes. So notice here, if you dropped a plumb line from my knee straight down, it would end up about at the end of my toes. So keep that nice bend in the knees, and we'll continue that same movement. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale. Exhale. Now, feel what you feel in the lower back. And what we're going to add is a little bit more knee bend. So as the arms lift up, bend the knees a little bit more. And then come back so that the knees are at the end of your toes. So we're not going to come all the way up. We're going to keep the knees bent at least this far. As we lift up, we're going to bend the knees even further and then come back. Inhale up as the knees drop. Exhale. Notice what you feel in the lower back. The intensity of the lift with the knees bent and the arms lifting should engage these lower back muscles quite a bit more than without the bending of the knees. Let's do a few more. Knees drop as the arms lift. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. And release. All right. We should be developing a little bit of heat on this already hot day. We're going to take our time. I want you to take a few breaths right now and just notice what you feel, especially if you can feel something in the lower back. So we'll take a few breaths and just feel what we feel. And let's come back to being ready to move. So again, feet hip width. What we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of a twist to that arm lift that we were doing before. So we're going to start with a very slight knee bend. And then as we inhale and we bring the arms up, what I'd like you to do is twist to one side. And then exhale, come down. So inhale, lift and twist. Exhale, come back to center and come down. So it's a lift and a twist on the inhale, untwist, and bring the arms down on the exhale. Inhale up and twist. Exhale down. Inhale. Exhale. There we go. And don't worry about how big this movement is, how big a twist, how high you lift your arms. Notice what you feel, particularly in the back, as you make this movement. What happens on the lift? What do you feel there? What do you feel as you do that spinal twist? Let's do one more each side. And release. All right. Nice and slow this morning. Nice and slow. So let's move on. We've been looking at what's called a long back, sometimes called the cow position back. We've been looking at that with the arms lifted, and we've been looking at it with the arms rotating, with the thumbs rotating back. Both of those movements will give you that long back. So I want you to see if we can achieve that long back. And if it helps to do an arm lift to kind of get things settled, that's great. Or if it helps to do a thumb rotation back, whatever you need to find that long back position. Sometimes people find that it helps to bring the hands behind the back. So you may do the thumb rotation. You might want to just bring the hands behind the back. But we want to have a nice long curve from the butt all the way up through the head. So that nice long back, I'm going to bring the hands back, a little bend in the knees. And what we're going to do is keep the nice long back, hinge right here at the hips into a forward flexion. So we flex forward, come back up. The knees are going to stay bent slightly through the whole movement. Exhale as you come down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. And I'd like you to experiment a little bit here. Some of these movements you should make really shallow, just a little tiny forward flexion, and then some come all the way down until your hamstrings stop you from moving. The whole time, the back will remain in a nice long shape. The lumbar curve does not release, it stays in a nice curve. Notice when you do the really deep forward flexions, notice how the hamstrings feel. And next time you're up, I'd like you to lift your right heel a tiny, tiny bit off the mat and then continue with that same movement. So we'll continue with nice, deep forward flexions. When you come up next time, put the right heel down and lift the left heel. Did you hear that? That was a crane flying overhead. So when you come up, one heel down, one heel lifts, flex forward. And notice how it feels between the two different sides. Notice if the movement feels different as you come up and down on the right leg versus the left leg. Let's do one more each side. And release. I'd like to continue that same vein where we're doing range of motion with the hamstrings. But what I'd like to do is to add a little bit of a twist into the hip joint. So what it'll look like is this. We will start with that nice long back again, a little bit of bend in the knees, stick your butt out a little bit. We're going to flex forward and come to one side. And then we're going to come up. Now, we're going to do this movement with one heel lifted. So let's lift the right heel. So a tiny little lift in the right heel. The right heel stays lifted. What we're going to do is flex forward and come towards the left foot, the planted foot. We're going to come over to the other side, the heel lifted side, and then come up. Put the right heel down, lift the left heel. Exhale down and to the right. Come over towards the heel lifted side and come up. Put the left heel down, lift the right. Exhale down to the left. Inhale to the right and come up. So the breath work here is exhale as we come down and move towards the planted leg side. Inhale as we come over to the lifted foot side and come up. So I've got my left heel down, right heel lifted. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Let's do a few more. As you do this, notice how it feels everywhere. Got a big twist going on the leg. Notice the movements of the knees. Knees move in opposite directions, so you get that nice hip twist. Let's do one more each side. And release. And just take a moment. How does it feel? Take a few breaths here. How does it feel as you do this movement? It's not a difficult movement, but there's a lot of parts that are moving there. The back is long and straight. It's held in a nice long back position. The hamstrings are in a elongated position as you come into the forward flexion. There's a twist in the hips. The knees rotate. All of these things are going on at the same time. So what I'd like to do is to look at the knee movement that we were just doing. Let's do this nice and slow. So as I have my right heel lifted, I come down and I rotate towards the planted foot. So the left foot is planted. Notice the right knee comes forward. I then rotate towards the lifted foot and the right knee rolls back and I come up. So the knees are coming forward and back as I do this movement. What we're going to do next is we're going to look at that same forward and back movement with the knees. And we're going to do it again from a standing position. So what I'd like you to do is find your left knee, your right knee. The left knee is going to come forward. Right knee is going to come back and come up. Let me show you this from a 3/4 view so you can see that maybe a little bit better. So left knee forward, right knee back, come back to center. Right knee forward, left knee back, come back to center. So here's an exhale as we move the knees apart. Inhale back to center. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. So as you do this movement, notice what happens with your pelvis. So as the knees move in different directions, the pelvis tilts forward, right? Notice what happens here. You can put your hands on your pelvis if that's good feedback for you. Notice that the pelvis twists a little bit, but it also tilts forward. So here's my left knee forward, right knee back. My pelvis twists towards the right, but it also tilts forward. So notice, you're looking at this from a side view, notice the angle that my back is at. And then reverse that. So notice the pelvis rolling to the side and the pelvis tilting forward. So we've been looking at forward flexions, and what we're now seeing is a little bit of a side flexion. So as we move one knee forward, one knee back, the pelvis flexes towards the side. And as you do this movement, I'd like you to start by lifting. Next time you're up, lift one heel and then come down. Put the heel down again when you're vertical. Lift the other heel. So I'm going to lift my right heel, come vertical. Lift my left heel, come back to vertical. So the knee that comes back, the heel lifts. And we're going to take it a step further. So instead of just lifting the heel, what we're going to do is lift the entire foot. So here's the right foot lifted. Put it down. Lift. Woo, lift that left foot. Put it down. And if you'd like, bring that foot a little farther forward, lifted foot a little farther forward, and exaggerate the movement of your shoulders in the opposite direction so that you've got a nice counter twist going. The pelvis rotates in one direction. The shoulders rotate in a different direction. And of course, we have a nice bit of balance going on here. And since the Premier League is starting back up again, we're going to follow through with a nice soccer kick. Instead of just bringing the foot forward, bring it all the way through and across. So the supporting knee bends, the leg comes across, the shoulders twist opposite from the pelvis. Let's do one more each side. And release. All right. Let's do a little bit of movement from sumo. And sumo, we're going to just put our feet somewhat wide with the toes being the fingers here, toes out somewhat at a bit of an angle, probably about 30 degrees. So feet out at a little bit of an angle. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of a squat, and then we're going to move side to side. So we're going to keep the hips at the same level as they are and just slide side to side. Slide to the right, slide to the left. Inhale in one direction, exhale as you come across. Inhale, exhale. Now let's get that torso going. So the opposite shoulder and arm will come forward. So if I'm moving towards my left leg, my right arm and shoulder come around. And as you come across, lift the heel of the back foot. So lift that right heel. Lift the left heel. Slide. Slide. And now, of course, we're going to lift that foot entirely off the mat. Just a tiny bit. Slide and lift. Slide and lift. And come to center. Come on up and release. Let's take a few breaths here. And I'd like to come now into a table position. We're going to do a little bit of work on the abductors on the outside of the thighs. So let's come into a table position. I'm going to be facing the camera here. So you'll notice where my knees are. The knees are somewhat together. And what we're going to do is take the hips to one side. So notice hips to one side. In this case, I'm taking them off to the right. So here's the hips to the right. And then I'm going to lift the inside leg. So that's the left knee. So the left knee lifts and I come back to center. Put the left knee down. Bring the hips to the left side. Lift the right knee just slightly off the mat. Come back to center. Hips to the right. Lift the left knee. Come back to center. Put that knee down. Hips to the left. Lift the right knee. Come back to center. Put the knee down. So we move to the side, lift the inside knee. Keeping that lifted, we come back to the center. And notice what you feel here. You should feel a pretty good engagement in the long abductor muscles on the outside of the thigh. And now let's exaggerate that movement a little bit. So as we bring the knee, the hips to the right, I lift my left knee and come back to center. Hips to the left, lift, come back to center. So as the hips move to the side, the knee, the opposite knee lifts. Hips to the right, lift that left knee, come back to center. Hips to the left, lift the right knee, back to center. Keep a nice long back. One more each side. Here's the left knee. There's the right knee. And release. Let's take a few breaths here. And just notice what you feel. What do you feel there? I think what we'll do is we'll continue with another movement out of table position. I'm going to shift sideways so you can see. I'm going to bring the attention to the upper arms and take a look at table position. So place your hands. I prefer a slightly longer table, so hands are a little bit in front of where the shoulders would be, and thighs are vertical. And from this position, bring your hands about shoulder width apart. So typically in table, your hands will be a little wider than shoulder width. In this case, bring them in a little bit so they're shoulder width. And we're going to rotate the arms in the same way that we started with those thumb rotations. We're going to rotate the arm in the same sort of way, rotate around, and then drop the elbows down towards the mat. We're not going to bring the elbows all the way down. Come back up. Let the elbows rotate back into their normal table position. Rotate the elbows out and drop the shoulders and drop the elbows. Come back up. So when you drop down, you're just going to float just above the mat. The breath work here. Exhale as you come down. Inhale as you come up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale. Inhale and release. I'd like to take a minute and take a look at your hands. So I'd like to find 4 areas on each of your hands. Base of the pointer finger, base of the pinky finger, the heel of the palm, and then the base of the thumb. So those 4 points. What we're going to do is come back into table and we're going to work on where the pressure is on those 4 points. So if I start like this in standard table, move back a little, I'd like you to find all 4 points on each of your hands. Find all 4 points and see if you can balance the pressure on all 4 points. And then we're going to bring a little more pressure to the base of the pointers. So change the mechanics in your hand so there's a little more weight being held at that point at the base of the pointer finger. And then slowly roll the hand out so that there's more weight on the base of the pinky finger, right at the base there. And then rotate a little more so that there's more weight at the heel of the palm. And then slowly rotate in so that there's more weight at the base of the thumb. So we're going to continue in that movement. Bring the more weight to the base of the pointer. Slowly roll it out so there's more weight at the base of the pinky. Bring it down to the palm of the heel of the palm, base of the thumb, and then let's balance everything out, all 4 points evenly weighted. And then I'd like you to bring more pressure to the 2 front points. So both the base of the pointer and the base of the pinky. So there's an even weight across both of those. The base of the thumb and the heel of the palm are unweighted. And then slowly drift back and forth. So there's more weight on the pinky and then more weight at the base of the pointer. So drift back and forth there, slowly shifting the weight. And then let's balance all 4 of those points and release. So we're going to come back to the tricep movement that we had just done a few minutes ago. And what we're going to do is we're going to keep our attention on the palms. And as we move the elbows, I want you to notice if you can keep the pressure evenly on the 4 points of the palm. So start with your hands a little closer, about shoulder width apart, and balance all 4 of those points. And then on the next exhale, rotate the arms, bring the elbows down, and see if you can keep the pressure evenly on all 4 points of the palm. And then come back up. So exhale down, keep those points evenly weighted. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. As you do this movement, notice what you feel in the shoulders, in the triceps, in the forearms, in the hands. Are you able to keep those 4 points evenly weighted as you do this movement? Let's do 2 more. And release. So notice what you feel. How do things feel? That can be a fairly intense movement on the hands and the forearms especially. But you may feel it in other spots depending on where you've got muscle weakness going on. We're going to do a couple of movements from constructive rest pose, and then we'll break. So let's come into constructive rest. So on your back, knees bent, feet flat on the floor, just like this. What I'd like you to do is take your hands, interlace them, and bring them behind your head. And let's bring your attention to your breath. So with your attention on your breath, next inhale, we're going to take the right leg and move it in towards your body, towards your chest. And then on the exhale, that leg moves in the opposite direction, and the left leg, so here's my left leg, comes in towards my chest. So the legs move in opposite directions. So here's an inhale. Here's an exhale. Inhale, the legs move in opposite directions until the extended leg, my left leg, my toe touches the mat. Exhale. Inhale. So let's move nice and slowly. Each breath, the legs move in one direction, and then they reverse. And let's do 2 more movements here. And release. Bring your feet down to the ground. I'd like you to take a few breaths and just notice what you feel here. That movement is very slow, very smooth, and yet it lights up some muscles. And I want you to see if you can find where those lit up muscles are. And I'm going to swing around to a different angle here. And we're going to do one more movement from constructive rest pose. And I'll show you what it looks like. So we're going to start again in constructive rest pose. Feet on the ground. And I'd like you to interlace those hands again. Bring them behind your head. We're going to bring both thighs vertical so the feet come up off the mats. And we're going to take one knee to the side. So this is my right knee. My left knee pushes up towards the ceiling. Bring that right knee in. Left knee drops down. Right knee pushes up towards the sky. The breath work, exhale as the knee drops. Inhale as the knee comes back to center. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Now, as you do this movement, push the lifted knee up towards the sky as the other knee drops. And if you'd like a little more excitement in your life, as the knee drops down to the ground, straighten that leg out. Inhale, bring it back. Exhale, leg to the side and straighten. Inhale, bring it up. As that leg straightens, let the foot drift up towards your head. Let's do one more each side. And release. I'd like to thank you for joining me today. I would like to leave you a couple minutes here so that you have a chance to breathe and relax and do a little Shavasana. I'm going to sign off, and I want to thank you for joining me today. Namaste.